Welcome to my garden. I started growing my garden last year, almost immediately after I moved in. My goal with growing this garden is to become more self-sufficient, more sustainable. I want to be able to grow more food by myself and rely less on the grocery store. Over the last 2 years, I've planted and grown a variety of fruits and vegetables, and I'd love to show you everything that I'm working on. This is my main garden. It's about a 20-foot by 20-foot plot where I grow all of my vegetables. This year I was able to build some wooden raised garden beds where I have all of my vegetables growing. I also used this 20 by 20 plot in order to grow some of my fruits in containers as well. This is my very first year growing onions, and in this raised garden bed I have both white onions and red onions growing. I grew my white onions from seeds and I grew my red onions from sets. This was a really fun experiment for me, and I was able to see just how much faster onions from sets grow than onions from seeds. I took some YouTube advice and I overplanted my onions from seeds. My white onions grew in very crowded, and as they started growing, I would pick them and use them as green onions for cooking, eating, and pickling. It is July, it's very hot, I water every day, and so far my onions seem to be doing really well. My red onions are definitely way ahead of the white onions, but my white onions are suddenly catching up at a very quick pace. This is my potato patch, and this is the best the potatoes have ever grown for me. Now, I have no idea what's happening underground, but as far as the plant on top, they have really shot up. I grew these potatoes from a bag of potato seeds, which I'm still not convinced that potato seeds aren't just small potatoes that you plant in the ground, because that's exactly what they seem to be. But I planted 2 rows of potatoes and they really shot up. Right now, they seem to be dying back, which, as far as I understand, is a good indication that there will be time to harvest very soon. Many of these stalks have fallen over and the leaves are turning yellow, so I'm going to keep an eye out, and I can't wait to harvest these potatoes. These first 2 beds were designated as onions and potatoes only, but the rest of my garden beds really seem to be a crapshoot. In these 2 garden beds, I'm growing zucchini and tomatoes on this side, and I'm growing zucchini and peppers on this side. All of my tomatoes and peppers from seed did terribly. So I ended up going to a big box store and buying small plants, which I have planted, and they have since really taken off. This is the tallest a tomato plant has ever grown for me. I'm super excited. I have multiple varieties. I have some slicing tomatoes, some Roma tomatoes, and some cherry tomatoes. And then I'm really not certain what kind of peppers I have. These definitely seem to be jalapenos. And then I have some longer peppers and some much smaller peppers. I'm really excited to take a bunch of these smaller peppers, ferment them, and make hot sauce out of them. My zucchini plants have been doing really well. They've really exploded, except all of my zucchinis have blossom end rot. I have some calcium fertilizer on the way, and hopefully after I add that to the soil, it'll solve the problem, but it's been really disappointing watching my zucchinis grow just for them to fall off and rot away. In these 2 beds, I have my cucumber trellis. I'm growing some pickling cucumbers on this side, and then I'm growing some Persian cucumbers, which are my favorite cucumbers for pickling, on this side. And then within the trellis, I'm also growing some dill right next to my cucumbers. I figured since I need dill to make my dill pickles, I might as well grow them right next to each other, and the dill seem to have been doing really well. I planted them from seed and they have been very low maintenance. Some of them have gone to seed, which I'm perfectly okay with. I'm not really worried about it because I've planted so much. I know that even if some goes to seed, I'll have plenty left over for pickling. My cucumbers and my peppers have been the first thing that I've really been able to pick and harvest. I just came back from vacation and some of these cucumbers have grown quite a bit. What's really great about these Persian cucumbers is that they are just the perfect size for throwing in a mason jar, which is why I love to use them for pickles. Their texture is also really great. The skin's not too thick, but it's still nice and crisp after you pickle them. This is my after vacation cucumber harvest. Some of them have yellowed a little bit, which will make them slightly bitter, but I'll be able to get a few jars of pickles out of these. So once we walk through the cucumber trellis, we get to the end of my garden, which is really just the leftover plants that I had. So I know I said that all of my plants from seeds died, but I actually did get some tomato plants that I was able to throw just over here. This was the space that I had available for them. And then as I overcrowded my cucumber plants, I took some of those sprouts and I moved them over here. And this is the fence for my garden. that they are going to be climbing up. I am a little bit of a chaotic gardener, as I don't really know what half the things that I planted are. I planted at least 5 varieties of tomatoes, and I don't know which one's which. But whenever they grow, I'll be able to figure it out. All I know is that they'll all be absolutely delicious. These peppers are ready to pick. I love throwing these peppers in with my pickles to add a little bit of spice. I make my pickles with a little bit of honey, which adds sweetness, and then having this spice balances it out. Get a fresh jalapeno right there. And then I have no idea if these little chilies are supposed to change colors. Right now, they're pretty bright yellow. I don't know if they'll stay that way. They still taste great. They're the spiciest pepper in my garden, and I've already used them to ferment some green onions with. Alongside my main vegetable garden, I've planted different things like some marigolds, which I've planted from seed, and they actually grew really easily, very fuss-free. I just planted seeds in there, kept them watered, and they came right up and flowered just perfectly. I tried to throw some marigolds at the end of every garden. Some of them got shaded out by some of the other plants, but that is perfectly fine. And then I have a little baby basil plant, which gets a lot of shade because of these tomato plants. I've planted a lot more than just this one plant, so if this one doesn't grow as vigorously, then that's fine by me. Now, if I'm a chaotic gardener, my daughters are twice the chaos gardener I am. I gave them a bowl full of leftover seeds that I didn't need, and then any extra plants I didn't know what to do with, I also threw in here as well. This year, they grew a ton of turnips and radishes, and they grew really nicely. If you have little kids and you want them to experience planting, growing, and harvesting something, radishes and turnips are great because they grow so quickly. And so your child will be able to very quickly receive the satisfaction of harvesting something they planted. They have a little bit of dill as well. They have some tomato plants. Their gardens don't receive as much care and love as mine do because I just let them have fun with it. My daughter's already getting some tomatoes in. And then what I love about her garden over here is that she actually has some lemon balm. This is the most amazing smelling stuff in the whole wide world. It smells very lemony, and I love to keep it around. If you ever feel stressed and you go ahead and smell some lemon balm, it calms you right down. It is such a beautiful plant. I honestly love to just go around, pick some, and smell some while I'm walking through my garden. It is blazing hot as I'm showing you my garden, but I'm glad that you've made it through the veggie patch with me. Now let's go ahead and let's see all the fun fruit, bushes, trees, vines that I'm growing. It is only year 2 for me, so I don't have that much fruit production, but my plants are all still growing, they're all still maturing, and it has been really fun. Let's go ahead and take a look at what all is growing. Let's start with some of the simplest berry plants you can buy, and that is strawberry plants. I have been having the hardest time really producing fruit. Now I have not been pruning the runners back. And so I do believe my plants are spending a lot of time and energy growing runners and growing new plants. As you can see, some of these plants are growing. I did get them all at big box stores, so I fear that maybe some of these plants were meant to be more ornamental than anything. But as long as they're growing strawberries, I don't care how small they are. I know they still taste great, and this has been something where I've had to be really patient with because they have not been having the results and they have not been fruiting as I hoped that they would. In front of my strawberries, I have some of my more fun projects. I have 2 mulberry trees that I bought off of Etsy. They came as very small plants and they looked like they were dying for a little bit. I thought I was screwing them up, but they are so hardy and they seem to have bounced back, no problem. I just repotted them to a larger pot today. Their roots definitely filled the container they were in, which to me tells me that they're focusing more on growing roots than growing their main little trunk. These are definitely going to grow more like a bush than a tree. They are dwarf mulberry trees, and so I'm super excited. They produce fruit really early in the season, and I have some fruiting bushes that grow later in the season, and so I'm glad and eager to offset fruit production with some mulberry trees. Now this guy is a fig tree. I bought it completely on a whim. It is a Chicago hardy fig, and I only planted this maybe a month ago. I don't even think it's been that long, but it has greened so quickly. I've been getting all of my plants on Tai Nursery. This is not an ad, I'm just stating the facts. But this has grown so well, and I'm gonna have to figure out what to do with it over winter, because I guess the cold in Pennsylvania will kill them, but people seem to have no... It is so stinking hot that I can't even film without my phone overheating. Where were we? So yeah, this is my Chicago hardy fig. I'm gonna have to find a way to keep it insulated in the wintertime, but people seem to have a lot of success either covering it in hay or chopping it down and covering it in hay. So we'll see what happens. I'll keep you guys updated, and hopefully next year I'll be able to taste the fig. I've had 0 fresh figs in my entire life, so I honestly can't wait. What are you guys planting and growing this year? What is doing well for you? What is not? What tips and tricks have brought your garden to life and helped you flourish? Please let me know down in the comments below. So let's go ahead and take a look at all of the fruit plants that I'm growing. Long story short, these are some strawberry plants. They have been growing some strawberries, but I have some critters that are really happy that they're growing some strawberries, and they have been getting nabbed up as soon as they grow. I'm okay with that because I've been really just focusing on multiplying the number of strawberry plants that I have each year. Here is my berry patch. Starting off, we have my blueberries. I did a whole video on my berry patch. You can go ahead to my channel and see everything that I'm growing, and I talk about it more in depth. But my blueberries are still working on becoming acidified. Some of them are happier than others. For instance, I will show you this right here. This blueberry plant has very green, healthy, happy leaves. But this blueberry plant and this blueberry plant are much more stressed, much more yellow, and they don't seem to be as happy in this soil. But I'm adding a soil acidifier to it, so hopefully they will be happier and healthier and give me more blueberries in the future. But this is year number 2 for 2 of my plants, and then this plant right here is actually on year number 4, I think, because I had it at my last home and it moved here with me. This is my crazy raspberry patch. Do not grow your raspberry patch this wide. Whenever they shoot out runners and grow up, please pull them and move them somewhere else, because I cannot stick my arm easily into the center to get my mature canes, which are actually growing the raspberries. I have just been lazy, and I'm waiting on the fall to move all of these young raspberry canes. But next year I should get an insane number of raspberries, because I have doubled, tripled, quadrupled, 10 times the number of raspberry canes that I've had since last year. But let's see. That's not ripe. We gotta find a good one. These are fall-bearing raspberry canes, but I didn't cut them down, so I should actually get some in the summer, which I have been getting a few, but they'll really take off this fall. And then this plot over here is my summer-bearing, where they grow only on second-year canes. And because I grew them so densely and so deep, it's so hard to find raspberries. And they often are underneath leaves in the shade, and bugs get to them before I do. But yeah, I'm just gonna toss this one. It's fine, because I'm also working on just increasing my number of raspberry bushes so that in the years to come, I will have enough raspberries to make wine, jams, and also be able to freeze them, eat them. All of my raspberry dreams will come true. Man, it's been so hot, and I think since I've been on vacation, they have not gotten enough water. Here's a good one. Beautiful raspberry. I've noticed that the berries that sit in the shade underneath the canopy of raspberry bushes don't have as much flavor and as much acidity as the ones that get full sun. That's why you should just keep one row. Don't let them get too deep, too thick, or else they don't get enough sunlight, they don't get enough airflow, and they won't be happy, and they won't taste as good for you. These are my blackberry bushes. Since I've gotten back on vacation, have seen these brand new blackberry stalks that have shot up. Last year, they didn't seem to want to shoot up very much, but this year, they seem to be doing great. and I have lots of little blackberries that seem to just take forever to turn black. But blackberries are similar to summer bearing raspberries, where these brand new babies, these baby canes, will not grow any fruit, but next year they will. And then after that, you pretty much just have to cut them down. Those second year canes will grow the fruit, and the first year canes will not. But if you can see in the shade here, I do seem to have a pretty good amount of blackberries for only year number 2. Here's our regularly scheduled break. Here are some flowers that I threw so many seeds on this hillside last year, and I did nothing to care for them or love them in any way, and these just came right back, no problem. I have so many of these wildflowers from last year's wildflower garden that just volunteered right back up, because some of them were actually perennials, and so they don't just die and never come back. They do come back every year, and I'm so happy for my plants and for the bees. So before we get to the grapes, I'm growing 1 currant plant, 2 currant plant, and then a josta berry plant, I guess it's called. This has yet to flower. It's really been growing out like a bush. I've heard that these can get quite tall. Currants like the shade more than they do the sun, so I have not had the happiest time with them. I may need to relocate them in the fall, but I don't exactly have a plan for that. So now that I've gotten to my row of berries, let's go ahead and move on to my grape project. This year I have planted 6 grapevines. 5 of them have done really well. One of them, I'm pretty sure, is dead. I bought them as bare root plants, so they actually all looked like this from the beginning. They didn't look super lively and leafy. They looked like little sticks. 5 of them have really grown quite well. This one has been doing the best as far as growing one central vine, which I am tying off to my trellis. But it looks like out of 6, only one of them is dead. The nursery I bought them from does have a policy that will allow me to replace it, but it's still sad whenever you do the work, plant something and you get nothing from it. I am growing 2 Concord plants, 1 Black Fredonia, 1 Niagara. My Tom cord plant is the dead one. And let's go ahead and see. This last one is a white seedless grape, and it is a Himrod seedless grape. I chose each grapevine based off of what will grow best in my area. Concord grapes are cultivated in Michigan, I think that's right. Michigan or Massachusetts, one of those M states that gets cold, and they do really well in Pennsylvania as well. And then Black Fredonia is a cultivar of Concord, and then Tom cord is a Thompson grape mixed with Concord. And so Concord and Niagaras do really well in this area. I'm in zone 6B, I get a lot of humidity. Wine grapes don't seem to do great in this area, and so Concord was a great choice for my hillside garden. So that is everything that's growing on purpose. I do have some wild raspberry bushes. If you've never seen a wild raspberry bush before, well, you need to get out there, you need to go hiking through the woods, because at least in Pennsylvania, they're literally everywhere. Some things that have saved my garden this year. Last year, I had so many problems with excess water. I have clay soil, and these new raised garden beds, which I was able to build and plant my plants in, have been a lifesaver. I have not had any of the yellowing leaves, the overwatering problems that I've experienced last year, because when water hits the raised garden bed, it wets it, but it keeps going down. It does not puddle up, it does not stay there the way that clay soil does. Also, adding a layer of mulch has been so great for my soil, as it prevents sun bleaching of the soil, as it kills so many of the nutrients and the microbes in the soil. And also, if you've ever just held a hose on a properly mulched waterbed, it just drinks it straight up. Whereas if you don't have mulch, it really tends to puddle and splash, which can cause a host of different problems for your garden and for your plants as well. This video is much more of a, hey, look what I'm doing, than me telling you what you should or shouldn't do. If you have any tips and tricks for me, please feel free to share them. I'm always trying to learn, and I'm always trying to expand my garden. Once again, the whole point of all this isn't just for me to have some flowers to show to people on YouTube and TikTok. It is for me to be more in control of the food that's available to me. A very basic example is I don't even know where you can buy Concord grapes at, but they are so much more delicious and juicy than any grape I've ever bought in a store. I don't even know where to buy real fresh figs at. I hardly ever see them in the stores, and yet now I'm growing them in my own yard. Fresh strawberries are so much softer, sweeter, and succulent than those hard, dense strawberries you get at the grocery store. Fresh blueberries have an acidity level that is so much more crisp and delicious than the bland, mushy blueberries that you get from Canada at the grocery store. I have never had an apple that was tastier than some of the apples that I've found in the woods. As time goes on, the fresh food available to me just grows and grows and grows. To me, self-sufficiency and sustainability equals freedom, and that's exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing. Thank you so much for joining me. I wish you nothing but success in your garden growing adventures. Happy gardening!